Alrighty, hey guys, thanks for tuning back in to another video here on my YouTube channel. As you can see, today we're out on the range. The trash here behind me and the steel targets up there. But so, apologize for taking as long to get this video out as it has, because I've had some trouble making this video. Today we are going to be talking about the Galil. And I'm not saying like, oh, I've had trouble making this video just to be like dramatic or anything. I really have had trouble making a video that I felt like accurately articulated my thoughts and opinion on the Galil. And the reason that is, it's not because I have any trouble talking, obviously, but my opinion, my thoughts on the Galil have changed, have evolved throughout the course of it being in my possession. I've had it in my possession for 2 months now, about 2 months. Sorry, bathtub, that's way longer than you probably thought I was going to keep it. But I do appreciate it. Now, my thoughts on it have changed. I did have a little bit of experience with a Galil before I borrowed the one that's in my possession now. I shot one on the range and I was like, oh, this is neat. Really heavy. And when I shot the sights, were not even close to being dialed in, so it was like way off at 100 yards. I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. So it didn't leave the best taste in my mouth for Galils, but and I kind of went into the one that I have now with that sort of history, sort of lukewarm at best towards Galils, and obviously I have a bias. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that my bias is that I'm an AK guy. I don't claim to be like any authoritative source on AKs or anything. I just like them, and I've been shooting them for a long time. And the manual of arms for AKs is very familiar to me. The sights are very familiar to me. I'm very comfortable with anything from a 74, a 100 series gun, a stamped AKM, milled gun. I mean, those are all pretty similar when it comes to like manual of arms and so on and so forth. But I'm very comfortable with that. It's what I know, and I probably shot more AKs than any other type of rifle. So that's what I know. And Galils are similar, but different enough to kind of mess with me just a little bit. Like when I pick up an AR-15, like obviously I know how to run an AR-15. How to reload it and, you know, do everything you need to do with it, all the administrative tasks. And I'm comfortable with doing the AR-15s as well. But when I hold an AR, I know it's an AR. So, like, I shoot it and I know how to reload it. I don't really got to think about it. I don't, like, you know, reach over to the side and try to grab the charging handle of an AR because I know it's not there. But with the Galil, it's in this weird sort of, it's just similar enough to an AK in terms of manual of arms for me to be like able to do it, but different enough to where I can't do it intuitively, if that makes sense. The charging handle, like I'm used to, like when I grab an AK charging handle, I reach up, just curl my fingers and let it rip. But you can't do that with a Galil. It's a little bit more, I gotta be more focused on where the actual charging handle's at. I gotta reach up here and then rack it. The safety, I mean, if you actuate it from this side, is just like an AK, so that's no different. But the sights are not AR-15. They're AR-15-like, and they're not AK. They're not even like an AK. They're just really similar to, like, well, nothing else that I've really shot a lot of. So it's just a slightly unique beast for me, and that kind of also soured my opinion because I was trying to do reload ones and up drills and things like that with it, and I found myself kind of struggling a little bit with the manual of arms. But as I've spent more time with the gun, as I've spent more time shooting the gun, I've really grown fond of it, to be honest with you. And the Galil's really won me over versus how I felt. I've made this video 3 times now, and this is the one I'm publishing because I'm taking this gun back today, so this is the one I'm publishing. In the first video that I made, I was like, yeah, this gun's heavy, it's not an AK, you know, I was really kind of negative. I made the video and I sat down and watched it, and I was like, man, I'm really sounding kind of negative. And I don't want to be somebody that just, like, harps on negative things. I don't want to be like, oh, this gun sucks because it's not this. I don't think that's fair to Galil. Like, my bias is I'm an AK guy. And if you look at my Century VZ 2008 video, I really compare the Century VZ 2008 to an AK, and I come to the conclusion that I don't really like VZ 58s or 2008s. I don't really like them that much because it's not an AK, and that's not really fair to the gun, the VZ 58 series, VZ 58 family of guns, because you leave one negative comment in a VZ 58 video, and you'll have a 1,000 Czech dudes saying, "Oh, my grandpa carried this gun and he loved it." You'll get flamed for saying anything negative about it, but it's a decent gun. That VZ 2008 was crap because it's Century, and it literally had the recoil of a lever action 30-30. Like, my dad has a Winchester 94, and that gun is stout recoil. It's a lightweight 30-30, and that VZ 2008 shooting 7.62x39 had the same recoil as that gun. No, not even lying. That gun was a piece of junk. The trigger was like 56 pounds. Anyway, I'm not getting into that. Sorry, I like to just ramble. But speaking about the Galil, you know, as somebody who is really into Russian guns specifically, I like AKs, but I really like Russian AKs. And, you know, the more modern stuff like AK-100 series rifles. That, like, I mean, actually all Russian AKs get my juices flowing. So, but I really like the modern stuff, like the AK-12s, you know, the AK-19s, AK-15s. They're more modern guns. And the other day, I was looking at some pictures of AK-12s being used in Ukraine, and it kind of hit me. Like, this gun here, a Galil Ace, with the exception of being in a different caliber as an AK-12, so we'll say AK-19, that's chambered in .223. This gun is like 75% of the way there. Maybe even more, like 85% of the way there. And let me qualify that statement. So, what is the upgrade? What's the biggest upgrade on the AK-12 or AK-19 over the AK-74M? It is the sights. They put peep sights on the AK-19, and they got rid of the front sight block, and they moved it. They put the front sight on the gas block. This gun has that already. This gun also has a side folding stock. Granted, it folds to a different side, and it's a fixed length of pull, but if you were to make this an adjustable length of pull, this would be a similar system to the AK-19 or AK-12. Another thing, a merit of the AK-19, AK-12, the side selector. It can be actuated with a thumb. That's present on this gun. I mean, those are the three really biggest features. Wait, I think the AK-12 has a thumb selector. If it doesn't, it should. I think it does, but I'm not 100% sure. Either way, side folding stock, peep sights, and a front sight block, gas block. That's like the biggest features that make an AK-12 different from an AK-74M. Granted, before I get flamed in the comments, yes, there are a lot of small things. They use different receivers. They use different gas tubes. They use, different furniture. Yes, but those are small differences. Those aren't really differences that they matter from a manufacturing perspective, but they don't really matter from an end user perspective. If you hand a soldier an AK-74M, or you take somebody who's very familiar with an AK-74M or any AK-100 series gun, and you hand them the AK-19, AK-12, AK-15, the first thing they're going to notice is the sights. That's the first biggest difference they're going to notice is the sights. The front end is lighter because the front sight block has been integrated into the gas block. And this gun has that. The Galil already has that, and I find that very intriguing because the Russians set out to modernize their gun, and whether they succeeded in that or not is a whole totally different video that I'm really not qualified to speak on because I don't have any experience with an AK-12. There are a lot of other people out there that have their hands on it, and they can give you a lot better opinion on that than me. But what I'm talking about is the end result. What they came up with is really similar to a Galil, and I find that very interesting because I said in another video that I tried to make that this gun is outdated, and it is dated by modern standards because this forend is like holding on to a red clay brick. It's big, it's blocky, it's uncomfortable, It's heavier than it needs to be by a country mile. The stock here is a fixed length of pull. That sucks. This bipod was like, bipods on infantry rifles was all the rage like back in the 50s and 60s. But you know, the future is now, old man. But I think if you were to cut this barrel down to like 13.7, for instance, delete the bipod, put a more slim svelte forend and an adjustable length of pull stock, you'd have a gun that's really similar to what, oh wait, that's the 13.7 Rock and Lock Galil. Being facetious, obviously, but is the Galil really a modern-ish rifle masquerading as a Cold War era battle rifle? Something interesting to consider. Now this rifle specifically, I guess that's enough talking about the Galil in general. I'll talk about this one specifically. This is an Israeli re-weld. So for those who don't know what a re-weld is, I'm sure most of you do, but there may be some that don't. If you have a Galil in the U.S., it's normally one of four things. Normally, there are some Galil kits that came in a long time ago that were built up by American companies. ATI and Sentry are the biggest ones. The Golani and Galio, I want to say, and I think James River Armory build some too. Avoid all those. I would just, as a rule of thumb, avoid all those. Yes, the JRA guns, some are good, some are bad. I'm not taking that risk. The Sentry guns, some are good, some are bad. I'm not taking that risk. And same with the ATI. Some are good, some are bad. I'm not taking that risk. I'm not buying anything that Sentry manufactures, okay? I'll buy it if they import it, but not if they manufacture it. But, and then the other way that you have Galils are you just get a kit and you build, the kit comes with the sight blocks, muzzle device, the stock, pistol grip, trigger group, mag release, the dust cover, the parts that are not the serialized firearm. I might come in with some receiver stubs, maybe not. They might be able to be re-welded, probably not. But yeah, and then you get a receiver made in the United States. There's some companies out there making some really good receivers. Tort comes to mind, and you send it off to somebody who builds Galils. And there's some American builders out there that build world-class Galils. Jeff with Hillbilly Firearms, obvious suggestion. Troy at InRange builds a lot of Galils. And I think Icon Weapons does too. This one here was built by a friend of mine. I'm not going to name because I don't think he wants to take new work on right now. It wasn't built, sorry, it was re-welded. But I'm not going to name him. You know who you are if you watch my videos. But the same guy that made Garantham's PP19 Bison was the guy that re-welded this Galil. And as always, Zasta, you do world-class quality work. It's really hard to get a close-up here, but there's no seams where the receiver stubs are re-welded. So yeah, the other option for a Galil in the U.S. is to have receiver stubs. Then you take these stubs, because they've been plasma cut, they are no longer a firearm in the eyes of the ATF, so they can be re-welded. And you re-weld them and you make it semi-auto only, and then you have a legal firearm. And that's what this is. So this is the original Israeli receiver. I'm not sure how many parts on this are American. 6 of them for sure. 922R. But yeah, so this is an Israeli re-weld. Now, I've been going back a little bit further. You can't see it, but shooting those paper targets up there with this Galil from the bipod. And I'm not using like crazy expensive ammo or anything, just cheap 55 grain 223 brass. And I'm getting, at 50 yards, I'm getting like a 2-inch group, which is, off a bipod. That's pretty good, I think. Not like spectacular, anything to write home about. It is still a long stroke gas piston, an AK at heart. And that brings up whole nother argument, is a Galil an AK or is it not an AK? Now, I don't want to wade into that debate, because I think you can make a case either way. Is it an AK, is it not an AK? Now, I had a Galil Ace Gen 1 5.56, and I liked it, but it just didn't quite scratch that AK itch for me. If I had had a Gen 1 Rock and Lock, probably would have kept it. But using AR-15 mags just kind of killed it for me. And that plastic bottom you can't take off of it. I'm not a big fan of that either. But anyway, back to this gun. This gun is incredibly smooth. This gun is really fun to shoot, especially from the bipod. On a static range, this bipod is great. Now, if I had to carry this rifle over the mountains behind me and over the other mountain, I would probably wish it had that bipod off of it, because I think that adds a pound or more of extra, totally unnecessary weight. But it is sure fun to plink with. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think this Galil is a fantastically fun rifle to shoot. I really enjoyed it being in my possession. And actually, while I got rid of my Galil Ace Gen 1, I've not regretted it, and I've not wished that I hadn't. But I would consider getting a old style Galil. It's a little bit closer to an AK. It kind of does have that whole, like, you know, Cold War battle rifle. I know it's not 308, flame me. Cold War sort of service rifle look and feel about it. And they're rugged, they're heavy, they're reliable, they're fun guns to shoot. And yeah, I guess that sort of sums up my thoughts on a Galil. Now, don't misconstrue me. I'm not saying a Galil is an AK-12 or an AK-19. They're different guns. But for somebody who is not, like, you know, super read into Russian guns and super into guns, if you were to hold them next to each other, they look mighty similar. And for a soldier who's only ever shot a gun in basic training in his entire life, somebody who doesn't own guns privately, they're really similar in how they're used and how they're meant to be used. Yeah, I just think it's really interesting to see what is old is new again, sort of kind of come to fruition. The Russians basically just made a stamped Galil and said, you know, he's good, comrade. So anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and let me know what your thoughts are down below. Let me know how wrong I am or how stupid my opinion is, but give me that sweet engagement. Anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you later.